It's time once again for another thrilling episode of Markout Radio. For the next hour, sit back, pull the stick out of your ass, and enjoy. Be warned though, smarks and internet know-it-alls will be offended, annoyed, and generally pissed off at what's about to happen to your ear holes. You've been warned. Now, Markout Radio.
All right, welcome to episode, what are we on here, 84? Holy crap. Welcome, you animals in chat, welcome on YouTube and all the other places, podcasts, whatever else you'll listen to us on. Listen, no, I'm not going to acknowledge it. No, fuck off, producer. No, I know it's Father's Day, but who gives a red rat's ass? Do you think any of these wrestlers care that it's Father's Day? They might care it's Grandfather's Day. Jesus Christ. Anyways, fuck's sakes. Yes, it is Father's Day 2021. If you're listening to this back in the archives. Good Lord. I can give myself douche chills now. All right, like I said, welcome to Markout Radio, episode 94 for April the 21st. 1997 out of the Saginaw Civic Center, Saginaw, Michigan. Hosted by Tony Schiavone, Larry Zbyszko, Mike Tenay, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. This is Nitro's 45th win in a row with a 3.4 to Raw, and their jump in the ratings to 2.8. There are 5,483 in attendance, with 4,983 generating a $90,703 gate by actually paying to be there. Congratulations on that. Good Lord. Thank you. Last night was yet another in your house for the WWE that drew 6,477. Keep in mind, though, before Triple H started naming NXT pay-per-views after WCW pay-per-views, they were always those takeover, which never really has made a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, these days NXT plays up the nostalgia angle hard and does their own version of In Your House theme pay-per-views, and they lean into that nostalgia gimmick hard, this time bringing back Todd Pettengill. The thing is, though, back in the 90s, he was an annoying nerd, and, well, he's still an annoying nerd, but now he's remembered as that lovable annoying nerd, so congratulations to Todd for that.
0.0.
By the way, I love the Flavor Saver. It's so classy, just great stuff. Anyways, before the Nitro intro begins, JJ Dillon arrives at the venue. We dump into a new Nitro intro that only features the Giant and Luger on the buildings, with the usual explosions and fun stuff from there. First match of the night, Malenko defeats Yuji Nagata to retain the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship belt. 2.5 out of 5 I gave for that one. Standard Japanese entrance music number 3 plays in. Nagata, who gets a ton of heat for daring to be Japanese in a city just north of Detroit. Yeah, okay, producer boy, good point. Maybe for my foreign listeners who don't understand that reference, Detroit was once where American cars were manufactured, and in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, they called Toyota and other Japanese car companies opening factories in America as the Asian invasion. Yes, before COVID, there was plenty of Asian American racism going on, so good for you. Just always learning from history, punching up, just, yeah, America! Oh, that was unfortunate. There you go. Anyways, Nagata performs a ghost kick to the hard cam on an unfortunate placement of that, and holy shit, Reggie White is actually in the crowd without handlers and appears to give a shit about what's going on in the ring. Tony explains to us why. Larry correctly covers the infamous quote from George W. Bush, who tried to do it back in the 90s. Oh, you can't even hear it, can you? Oh, well, that sucks. Well, that sucks.
Come on, you.
How come you can't hear it? Let's see if I can get it to appear. Hold on.
If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
There it is. Okay, hold on. Let's try that again.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
Gold. gold. That not your dumbest president by far, America. So sorry about that, but it has to be mentioned every now and then just to keep everyone honest. The Texas Cloverleaf here as a finisher ended up looking kind of shitty since Nagata is not very flexible. After this, Glacier defeats Ciclope, and that one gets
0.0.
just awful. Just absolutely awful. Now, there's a more colorful outfit for Ciclope than the last time we saw him. Lots of horn gimmicks, but yeah, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's just that they're annoying and get in the way of pulling off moves every now and then. And oh goody, Glacier's back, and now instead of both blue eyes, now he's only got one blue eye, so he's got a ghost eye. Isn't that fascinating, everyone? Isn't that awesome? He's got one blue eye.
Right.
I mean, it's just fantastic. It's great. Yeah, Jesus Christ, it's awful. It's just awful. The whole fucking Glacier gimmick is awful. And by the way, Tony and Larry totally ignore the very loud and obvious Glacier sucks chant from the audience. That basically everything, it's over everything. You can't hear guys taking bumps over the Glacier sucks chant. So yeah, no, long before Roman Reigns, we were being forced tons of shit down our throats in the wrestling industry. So it has always been there. It will always be there. Calm your tits. Wrath interrupts the post-match posing from Glacier when he comes out with his full gimmick on. Mortis sneaks out from underneath the ring, delivers a super kick, knocking Glacier silly. Afterwards, Wrath chokeslams him, and Mortis claws at his eye and takes the helmet, giving it to James Vanderbeek. No, not that. No, it's not James Vanderbeek, is it? No, I fucked that up. Hold on. Turn it off. Jesus. James Vanderberg. Yeah, that's the guy. James Vanderberg, the giggly demon looking motherfucker. So not. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Turn that off. Thank you. Jesus. Gonna get us triggered on YouTube for that. Pacey, don't fuck around. Anyways, you remember Clark as Adam Bomb just a couple years ago in WWE with that whole nuclear bullshit cartoon gimmick. Not that this is any less cartoony. It's just, well, it's kind of the same. It's just WCW flavored Kool-Aid this time. So, you know, there's that. Kenny Powers comes out to, what? Oh, that's not Kenny Powers. Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez, yeah, sorry. That's not Kenny Powers. But, yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. Fuckface, former NWO referee that shall remain nameless right now, trimmed his goatee into a mustache, rocking a sweet mullet, looks just like fucking Kenny Powers from Eastbound and Down. Anyways, he cuts a promo for apologize for joining the NWO, and he is a WCW guy now apparently. So there's that. After this, Ultimo Dragon defeats Bobby Eaton to retain the WCW World Television Championship belt. Dragon, of course, coming down with Sonny Ono. Eaton does a good job of jobbing for Dragon, keeping up with a lot of his high-speed flippy-dippy offense, considering that Bobby Eaton's really not a high-five flippy-dippy guy. Anyways, Ono gets in some karate kicks on the outside, which gets a good amount of heat from the audience. The Dragon Sleeper from Ultimo finishes it here with Eaton selling it like a fucking champ. I gave it 2 out of 5 because it was effectively a job match, and it just really didn't seem like Dragon was given too much of a shit on this. And so, like, the World TV title is basically just being defended by somebody that doesn't really want it. So, yeah, there's that. Anyways, Gene Ramp promo with Regal after this. Regal shoots on Sarah Ferguson, who was married into the British royalty back in the 90s and infamously cheated on her husband about 1,000 times, and then went on to do merchandise commercials embarrassingly on television. Regal then shoots on the Japanese wrestlers and then shoots on the crowd for being xenophobic, which is fantastic wrestling. What do you call it? Do you call that hypocrisy? Irony? It's wrestling, right? One way or the other. The entire promo made no sense. Got a reaction from the mouth readers in the crowd, though, so who really cares, right? Meng defeats Jericho. I gave that 1 out of 5. Tony and Larry shoot on Jimmy's wardrobe. Yes, it is less colorful, but conservative? I mean, he looks like an old gigolo. I don't know if conservative is what I would call that. Anyways, Jericho gets jobbed out hard to Meng to put over the Tongan death grip. I'm still a little bit confused as to how this is not a fucking chokehold to be broken up, but whatever. Wrestling, right?
There can be only one.
Post-match, Gene does a rant promo with Jimmy Hart and Meng, apparently because even Kevin knows that everyone's sick of the program with him and Benoit and how much kayfabe breaking is going on. Meng will now face Benoit at Slamboree. Kevin was slurring his words and sounded drunk off his ass as he asked Meng to do his finisher on him. Now listen, I know it's the 90s and breast implants weren't like great in the 90s, but Jackie's are awful. It looks literally like they're stapled to her chest. They're just terrible. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate a good solid amount of side boob here and the barely covered nipples, but holy fuck, man. They're awful. Benoit has a video package after this to a rockin' beat straight out of the 80s. Lots of YouTube style hard cuts of Benoit matches. Not the worst vignette I've ever seen, but pretty close. The Public Enemy versus the Steiner brothers after this. I gave this one 3.5 out of 5. This was the best match of the night, and it arguably was not a match. Morris and Conan jump the Steiners in the back and are fought off and chased away after destroying some of the catering tables before the Steiners come out, hug some family before heading to the ring. Now, the match itself was okay. It was nothing crazy, but it was oddly satisfying. And the run-in from Morris and Conan to fight to the back, where some of the other Steiner family members got some shots in, got a great reaction from the Michigan crowd. So, I mean, you can only hate on it so much. After this, Gene has a rant promo with J.J. Dillon, clarifying Eric Bischoff's status with the WCW. He has no authority during his ongoing suspension. However, Bubba and Wall Street's NWO contracts are not valid, so they're gone from the NWO. Technically, I think this means that they're still WCW wrestlers, but not NWO wrestlers. Now, Bischoff tells JJ to bite him numerous times. This promo was actually gold. I really can't believe that they routinely leave this promo out of the WCW versus NWO retrospectives. Now, JJ going full wrestling promo at the end to finish the segment going into break was, it was okay. It was very, very 80s. And there's nothing really wrong with that if it's cool, but JJ's never been cool. So it kind of fell short. And then the crowd kind of shat on it. It should have ended when Bischoff told him to bite him and then walked away. But anyways, there's a recap of the Reggie White run-in from last week. No shot of Reggie in the crowd, though, for during this. After this, Jeff Jarrett defeats Scotty Riggs. I gave this 3.5 out of 5. Yes, second best match of the night. Jarrett debuts his in-ring chaps. We get a recap from Saturday night when Riggs cheated to pin Jericho by putting his feet up on the corner turnbuckle. Mongo comes out with the Halliburton. Reggie comes out of the crowd, takes the case, chasing Mongo back to the locker room area. In the ring, though, Jarrett drops Riggs on the back of his knee on the top turnbuckle, follows it up with a figure 4 for the W. Now, after this, Syxx defeats Rey Mysterio Jr. to retain the WCW World Cruiserweight title belt, and again, a 3.5 out of 5. Another solidly performed match. Neither guy was trying to one-up the other, which is awesome. Neither guy was trying to no-sell the other guy's moves, which was awesome. Syxx debuts his Bronco Buster in the corner this week, which gets a solid reaction, even though it wasn't the polished crowd pleaser that it will one day become. Anderson misses 2 huge bumps right behind him. The crowd reaction as Nash kicks Mysterio in the back of the head and then power bombs him in the ring. J.J. Dillon comes down after the ref calls for the bell. Syxx slapped on his buzz killer. Yeah. The Buzz Killer finish. JJ comes down. He orders Syxx to release the Buzz Killer. Wouldn't do it for a little while. At some point, one of the security guards pissed off Syxx and Nash, which led to some stiff shots and stomping on this poor guy. Afterwards, Syxx and Nash are cleared out of the ring. JJ warns them this won't be happening anymore in WCW, which they, of course, reply with, "Bite me." This is when the NWO are, by the way, in their glory, when they have an authority figure to shoot on. When they're just cool and the fans are with them, they're not as interesting. They're not as provocative. They're not as cool as they are when they've actually got an authority figure to fuck around with. And J.J. Dillon is an absolutely great authority figure to fuck around with because he's an actual wrestling guy. So this will be fun as long as they can keep this going, which, okay, it won't be for long. Spoiler alert. Anyways, after this is a shitty Luger's 90s rap vignette that follows, which was fucking awful. Just to remind us that Luger is a wrestler and he's still supposed to be getting a shot at Hogan. Anyways, just before the main event, and I was actually nervous. I didn't think we were gonna get it, but here he is. That golden voice bastard. Lee Marshall calls in with the 1-800-COLLECT road report from the location for next week's Nitro, Norfolk, Virginia. Now, according to him, Wayne Newton was in some groups before he got famous. The Rolling Rodents, Herman and the Vermin, Earth, Wind, and Fur. But he really broke loose, according to Lee Marshall, in the band Creedence Clear Weasel Revolting. Just dad joke on top of dad joke. Wow. Brains Rebuttal was decent, but forgettable because it was drowned out by the other two idiots laughing. NWO promo after this from a shitty D-movie spot where we get Hulk Hogan putting over himself, the NWO, Grace Jones, which some of you may remember from, I believe it was The Living Daylights, the James Bond movie where she was the big black badass bitch, and Robert Vaughn, who are doing cameos for the NWO. Now with Grace, sure, I get that. Grace is fucking cool looking. But Robert Vaughn makes you cool? I mean, listen, he was good in basketball, but cool? Not quite sure. He makes a fun bad guy, but not sure about cool. Anyways, this shitty movie was called McKinsey's Island. It scored a 3.2 out of 10 on MDB's site. I couldn't find a Rotten Tomatoes review of it, so that should say really everything right there. There's an NWO in-ring promo after this with Syxx, Nash, Bagwell, Vincent, Norton, and Fake Sting. Syxx starts by shooting on Flair for stealing Buddy Rogers' gimmick after last week Flair and Piper shot on the NWO for not respecting wrestling's storied past. Nash claims that you couldn't get a shot in WCW in his first run unless you were somebody's son, cuts a promo on how Hall would have been huge in WCW in his first run, but got held back because of that. He then shoots on previous generation that left the industry in shambles. I kind of agree with it and kind of don't. So like the previous generation would be the generation that transitioned from Hogan to, I guess, what would be the NWO, right? Now, in the WWF, that's the transition from the Hogan cartoon era to the WWE or WWF Attitude Era, whatever the fuck. And that would kind of fall on the shoulders of Bret Hart as a transitional champion in the WWF. Now, in WCW, Flair never did take a backseat like Hogan ended up having to do because Flair didn't get hurt as much as Hogan did, and Flair wasn't trying to be a movie star like Hogan was. So the transition was Flair just holding on too long. And yeah, I mean, I don't disagree entirely, but I think that in the early 90s, the wrestling industry was just going through a phase where it just wasn't cool anymore. And by the time the NWO came in, it was already starting to get cool, and the NWO just sort of put it over the top. Now, this is another gold promo from Nash anyways, maybe not from Syxx, but from Nash for sure. And it rarely gets coverage in those WCW versus NWO retrospectives, but it was really good. And I think one of the reasons why it doesn't get a lot of respect and coverage in those retrospectives is just how hard he's shooting on the guys that came before him, essentially. After this, you got your main event as DDP defeats Psychosis in record time, by the way. I gave it 2.5 out of 5, and not because of the match, but because of what happens afterwards. Psychosis gets jobbed out hard to a DDP diamond cutter from the top rope so that we can have a Savage Liz promo. Now, there was so much haze in the stadium that there's really only one angle that worked on Savage. But let's be honest, if you look at the guy directly to Savage's right, so our left on the screen, oh, just gold. This guy had a glorious mullet and a mustache that would make a fucking porn star jealous. Just absolute fucking gold. I feel like it deserves. I feel like it deserves like two things. Is there something like this guy? He is the epitome of what the mustache mullet generation was. We get just. Come on, give me something good. Thank you. There we go. All right, back from break, we get a Piper Flair Green in-ring promo with Gene Okerlund. Flair committed a sin that only Flair can get away with when he takes Gene's mic from him and calls out the NWO. The same crew from earlier comes out. However, there was the addition of Scott Hall, newly released from his stint in rehab for alcohol. Anyways, the NWO got cleared out of the ring once. They regroup on the outside. We fade to black on them getting cleared out of the ring a second time. However, once the show goes dark, the NWO does manage to lay out Flair and Piper while Norton and Bagwell hold Green back, who wasn't selling shit because Green can't wrestle. It got a hell of a reaction from all reports from the live audience, but it was probably better to test that out dark than live because Green no-selling everyone's offense would have looked horrible and would have fucked up the entire build to Slamboree. So smart move to not have that go out live. Now, this Nitro wasn't awful. Now, it wasn't great either, but it wasn't awful. There were some solid, memorable promos in there, of course, going back historically, looking at them and, you know, all that nostalgia factor. But the crowd was not even arguably into the show. The wrestling matches themselves, I mean, a lot of them are kind of garbage. There's a few exceptions and some high spots, but unfortunately, the top of the card and the main event pulled everything else down. So 3 out of 5 this week for us here at Markout Radio.
Well, that was an abortion of a show. Should the mood take you, check out markoutradio.com and leave a comment. You can also find links there to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Stitcher channels. You can even leave a voicemail on our Skype. Just click the links and share them.